details, right?
Hello there. Zoe, what do you think is the biggest story on the show today?
I think the story on IVF is going to be absolutely fascinating.
That is a great story, not what I'm thinking though.
Maybe the one on fad diets or intermittent fasting.
Another biggie, but no.
Why don't you just tell me, Ed?
Okay, well, with your bub, Foxy, you probably don't realise, even though he's a bub, but later on, our piece on keeping your kids from being bored in the coming holidays is going to have parents glued to their TVs.
I cannot wait, because he's already driving me nuts. Let's go. Get the show started. Today, we explain the beautiful mystery that is IVF.
So we know that female age in particular is the most important influence upon fertility.
We find out about the pros and cons of intermittent fasting and if it'll work for you.
And I'm going to be taking a closer look at the role of vitamins with my beautiful assistant.
So join us for the show for everyone who wants to live their life just that little bit better.
Just feels good to let it all out.
Let's all get well, stay well, live well, and look fabulous right here on the House of Wellness.
Hi there, we've got the kids on the couch and we caught a little glimpse of one Gerald Quigley wearing a little bit Harry Potter, a little bit store dummy. Words fail me, however, we'll see more of that as the show progresses.
He was very brave.
Oh, wow. Wow. Zoe, what
You
could you
cannot
think?
unsee that. Jo, your story about the pros and cons of dieting, fad diets and intermittent fasting has me thinking, should I get onto one? Should I fall off the wagon and get back on? Because that's what happens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it makes you hungry, doesn't it? Thinking about it. But it's estimated that more than 2 million Aussies are dieting at any one time, which is so many. And I reckon there's as many fad diets as there are people dieting.
Yep.
So we'll be looking into which ones are actually good for you.
Now, Gerald, what expert advice are you bringing to the table today?
I'm bringing our field story. I got the call for a field story, so I thought suit and tie, get dressed up. Little did I know.
Yeah, generally, you do dress up for stories, so this is no different.
Not this one.
That was a left field story, that one. Cannot wait for it. And Zoe Bingley-Pullin is with us today, wearing a different hat though this time.
You know, I thought I'd talk about something which is really close to my heart, IVF. It's something I went through, and it's statistically interesting to know that 1 in 6 Australians struggle at some point with fertility. So I thought it's a great opportunity to talk about this more and explain what is really involved when it comes to IVF.
In June 1980, Funky Town by Lip Sync was top of the pops in Australia. Women were finally allowed to join surf clubs nationwide as full members, and a beautiful little bundle of joy by the name of Candice Reed was born as Australia's first test tube baby. Since then, more than 200,000 babies have been born thanks to IVF technologies. And today, 1 in 25 Australian babies are now born via IVF. But for all the joys those numbers have brought to Aussie parents, today 1 in 6 Australian couples experience fertility problems. It's 8 a.m. on Tuesday morning, and the first order of the day for IVF nurse Amy Scott is to call one of her patients who's desperately waiting on the results of her 3rd round of IVF.
Hi Alice, it's Amy, one of the nurses. How are you? Hello. Yeah, I'm sure. I've got that result from today. Is now a good time? I'm really sorry it's a negative today. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Calls like this are the very reason why women often describe IVF as a journey. The potential lows are literally heartbreaking. But I can honestly say that it's the potential joys that keep women filled with hope.
I do have to reveal I've got a special interest in this story. You see, my little Emily was an IVF baby, and I feel so lucky every day that I had IVF and that I had Emily. Isn't that right?
When you consider that the average sperm count in Australian men has fallen by 50% in the last 40 years, and the average age of the first-time mother has increased to the mid-30s, according to leading fertility specialist Dr Mark Bowman, making babies the old-fashioned way can no longer be taken for granted.
We've always had, sadly, people who struggle to get pregnant. But the reason why that's principally becoming more common is because people leave it too late. So we know that female age in particular is the most important influence upon fertility. And that's because women are born with all the eggs they're going to have. And by the time they get to their late 30s to early 40s, their egg cells have been with them since birth and they don't work as well, sadly.
The trends of prioritising career and travel before starting a family has left many Aussie couples vulnerable to infertility issues. Jo Hicks was 36 and her husband Stu was 39 when they first started trying for kids.
I think probably for us it was, again, just living life and trying to have the life experiences that we wanted to have as individuals and as a couple, get them out the way before really thinking about starting a family.
But then Jo found out she had polycystic ovarian syndrome.
I think in hindsight I wish I knew about it more when I was younger, just so I could, I suppose, do more about it, or certainly not have wasted maybe too much time trying, you know, because it's heartbreaking.
The fact is, there are lots of reasons couples may struggle to become pregnant. But according to Stephen MacArthur of Genea Fertility and IVF, recent advances in fertility science are changing lives.
The technology we have today is as close as we've ever been to replicating the natural environment where the embryos would grow. Is we're able to keep the embryos in place for 5 or 6 days. So what that means is it's a completely undisturbed environment. And what you get from that is better embryo quality and subsequently more pregnancies, which is really what we're here for.
The IVF process involves stimulating a woman's egg production, collecting the eggs, and then combining sperm and eggs together in a laboratory in order to achieve fertilisation. A viable embryo can then be implanted into the mother at about day 5.
The demands for IVF are on the increase, and with the great advancement in technology, this is vastly increasing the success rate.
Genea has developed their own system known as Jerry incubation. This allows scientists to monitor the embryos without taking them out of the incubator using cameras installed within the system. Patients can now log into an app which allows them to monitor the growth of their embryos. Later in the day, Amy has another call to make. Her patient and her partner have been trying to conceive through IVF for 3 years, and Amy knows this will be their final attempt.
It's Amy, one of the nurses calling. How are you? I'm just calling with that result from today. Is now a good time? It's a positive pregnancy test today. Yeah, huge congratulations.
Tell me, how many times have you delivered good news?
So me personally, I think it's over 300.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
When they tell you it's positive and that you're pregnant, at first it was a bit, I suppose you just can't believe it for a second there. And I don't know, I think I remember we were screaming, jumping up and down.
After 3 cycles of IVF and over 2 years, Jo and Stu finally become parents to this little miracle Riley, 3 years old and powering.
Seeing the difference in those patients when they come back with that baby is, yeah, the best bit.
And as for my personal journey, well, it's definitely had its ups and downs. I was 30 when I started IVF. And at 36, our Emily finally came into the world. And at age 40, I've had 3 unsuccessful attempts since. So if I can leave you with anything, it's this.
There are lots of challenges when it comes to infertility, but age really can play a big part. So a simple solution is to have that chat with your doctor earlier on.
Interesting.
It was something, obviously, that was very challenging for me. I found out when I was young. But as you can see in that story, the technology from even when I started to the last 4 years is amazing. I got very emotional in that story, but I also got so relieved for anybody else who was going to go down the journey of IVF. There's a lot more technology and support out there as well.
It was definitely something I was looking at. I had given myself to the end of 2017 to get pregnant, and I was going to book in December to explore IVF if it didn't happen, and I fell in June.
Do you know what? Having that time frame, I think, is a really smart approach. Begins simply because the emotional anguish that you go through, you need to have some finality. And I think obviously there is an endocrinological, there is a stress mechanism, as we know, when it comes to our hormones, and even kind of having that release of stress has benefit when it comes to hormonal structure.
And it's a quite complex story, isn't it? It's not something
Really,
you just
very
book in and
complex.
think, oh yes, it's quite straightforward. So the discussions need to be involving everybody. It's stressful, it's emotionally draining, and it's actually interesting as a pharmacist watching many, many women go through the highs and lows of success, failure, success, failure.
But, you know, I think that's a really important point to make, Gerald, that there is, and they talk about the rollercoaster around IVF. For myself, our beautiful Willow was conceived naturally, but is literally a miracle. Should not have happened, because when I started IVF, you know, I discovered that really I was not able to have children. I tried many, many cycles with my own eggs, then did again with donor eggs, again failed. And I think that, you know, IVF is about hope, and I understand the heartache, the desperate heartache about wanting to have a baby. And so you walk into these offices and you see these babies on the walls and you think, this is going to happen for me, and you need to proceed with caution, because it is so destroying in many ways, financially, emotionally, psychologically, physically, your relationship.
I think the one thing,
so much you need to be aware of.
There's definitely one element that hasn't been tackled yet, and that's even when you do achieve pregnancy. I mean, obviously miscarriage is something that all women will experience. I think it's 1 in 4 women actually do go through it, even irrespective of IVF. But I do think that the dialogue needs to be broader. We need to lessen the shame that's around this for women as well, because we do internally feel that it's our fault, even though it's 50% of a guy. So I think support networks and building on those would be wonderful.
And also that there are options from zero to IVF, you know, and to go and see your doctors and your specialists
along
to take
the way.
those steps. You don't have to go for
and lots of free services. A lot of people don't know about ovulatory tracking. That's free 3 months of free tracking. You can simply get your GP, or you can go to a fertility expert and they can talk to you about.
You have to get you get bruised and the needles go in the second bruise.
That's nothing.
I know, but I had to do that too. It's not nice.
I have had so many injections in my life. It is ridiculous.
Okay, anyway, we can talk about this till the cows come home, but stay with us because there is so much more coming up here on the House of Wellness.
Later, we look at boredom busters for your kids during the school holidays.
But next, the truth about intermittent fasting and how it affects your weight. Stay with us. It's all happening here on the House of Wellness.
What's the one thing it seems everyone has tried? Yep, it's the diet. In 2011 and 2012, over 2.3 million Australians over 15 were on a diet. The Mediterranean, the ketogenic, paleo, and now fasting. We all seem to have found a reason to jump on one diet or another. And each year seems to bring along a new fad diet. So Brodie has again pounded the pavement to see what your diets are currently and whether anyone is succeeding.
I tried lots of types of diets so that I don't get pigeonholed into eating certain types of foods. Fasting, I think, is really good to give your body a break from food. Like, it takes a long time for your body to process and break down food. So sometimes I've gone from 12-hour fasting to 24 to I've even done up to 48.
Definitely not. I love eating.
Yeah, I'm currently fasting.
You look great. How's it going?
Amazing. I've managed to lose 10 kilos in the past 8 weeks.
Just being sensible about not just eating meat and rice like all the bodybuilders used to do, just eating some vegetables and fruit once in a while, or a little more if you can.
Well, there's this kind of a fad diet at the moment, you know, the intermittent fasting. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to delay my breakfast as soon as I can.
I have tried fasting. It didn't work because your body sort of adapts and realises, hey, I'm not eating the next meal, let's just store it as fat.
Do I look like I fasted? No. No, this is
Don't
not.
know.
No.
Do I look like I fasted?
Yes.
Oh.
Some interesting responses there. But with more than 2 million Aussies dieting at any time, it's no wonder the weight loss industry is thriving. And much of the focus is on these so-called fad diets. Now, it seems each year there's new ones that'll solve our weight loss problems permanently.
But many of the diets look at what we eat.
Yeah.
High protein, low carbs, grain-free, fat-free, fun-free. But as we saw with Brodie, one of the hottest trends is not what we eat, but when we eat. It's often called intermittent fasting, quite hard to say, but it means going without food for specified times.
It's all very confusing. I've probably been doing it wrong. I was doing it in mittens. So that's
okay, that's one way to deny yourself food.
We'll make it the big topic today. We've got a big panel of experts to explain a bit further. We might start with dietitian Chloe McLeod. Chloe, when we're dieting, what's actually happening to our body, the body state?
So when we go on a fad diet, what usually happens is we go into calorie restriction or often restrict whole food groups. This can leave you feeling tired, fatigued, quite foggy-minded and quite low in energy as well.
OK, well, let's go to advanced sports dietitian Alicia Edge. Now, can fad diets be good for you? Are there always risks?
Oh, for some people it works, for not many it works for a very long time. It's always a very short-term solution. So yeah, there's definitely risks, as Chloe mentioned, for sure. The risks I see most frequently are actually that people get a really poor relationship with food afterwards, which is probably the thing that I see most in practice.
Because it does sort of mess with your head. You're denying yourself something that your body is telling you need.
Yeah, weight loss has become this cultural obsession. You know, we've tried something like 61 diets by the age of 45.
Wow.
And we're spending 31 years of our life dieting. So there's no doubt that, you know, we can go out and we can lose weight, but the biggest struggle is then keeping that weight off long term. People are trying 4 to 5 diets or fad diets every single year.
Yeah, Dr Nick Fuller is with us as well, obesity expert from Sydney Uni as well. It must be when, as Chloe said, we go into a calorie restriction, a bit of a shock to the body, and something's happening with the brain too, because it tries to fight against that, doesn't it, eventually?
It does. We can lose the weight, and it doesn't really matter what diet we go on. Some diets are obviously better than others. There's a fascinating report that comes out every year from, and it's called the US News and World Health Report.
Yeah.
It ranks these diets according to, you know, the ease of following, the scientific evidence, their safety. But often the most popular come out the bottom, in the bottom 10 every single year. The ketogenic, you know, the 5-2, these diets that we're talking about all the time. So yes, they do work, and different diets work for some people, but often they lose the weight, then they end up putting that weight back on, and that's what we want to prevent. That's what's important.
Gerald, from your practice and witnessing people who are on fad diets, what is the biggest problem that you're seeing with people?
Well, they don't stick to them, usually, Jo. It's very exciting for 3 or 4 days. But what I find puzzling is that they don't really look at why behind the scenes, why do you want to lose the weight? So really the diets are often selling an unrealistic expectation, which is unfair. So in all of this, and it's just amazing to have all these qualified people here who see people in all sorts of attempts. But is there a favourite one, Nick, medically? I know you've written a book about it, but what would you, if someone came to you and said, Dr Fuller, I want the best intermittent fasting advice, or the best fasting advice or weight loss procedure?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, at Royal Prince Alfred Hospital and the University of Sydney, we put thousands of patients through all these different treatments and diets. And it doesn't really matter what we put them on. Like we said, they'll lose. But then when we follow them up, 95% of them actually fail long term. Fewer than 5% are succeeding on their weight loss journey. They're going back to where they started because their body's fighting the weight loss. Their body's actually slowing down from a metabolic point of view. Their appetite hormones are changing, so it's beyond their control. So as you know, alluded to, it's not the individual that's failing. They might go back to some of their old habits because they took out entire food groups with, you know, poorly prescribed diets. But even when they're following good, healthy habits and implementing changes that are lifelong, if you don't impose diet breaks along your weight loss journey with the interval approach, you do see the weight coming back.
So the interval approach is intermittent fasting?
No, so intermittent fasting is when you actually use different times of the day, for instance, where you may not eat. You may delay the time that you have breakfast, have dinner earlier. You may also go on a weekday, so 5-2, for instance, where you restrict on 2 of the days out of the 7.
I dare say we'll get a couple of different results. You deal with a lot of day-to-day clients, and Alicia, your specialty is more with sort of high-performance athletes as well. From your point of view, from your clients, have they tried the intermittent fasting? What's their success rate been like?
Yeah, so I've had quite a lot of clients try intermittent fasting. I usually talk about the 16-8 approach, which is where you eat within an 8-hour window and then fast for 16 hours, or the 5-2 style, where there's 5 days of just normal eating and then 2 days of calorie restriction.
Okay.
And I found it most successful in people who are in office jobs. They're sitting down for most of the day, or maybe they're eating out for a lot of their meals. So maybe it's more of like your senior executive who's got like the business lunches and the business dinners, and then by like reducing that time period of eating, it means that just their overall calories are reduced, and it helps them to be able to meet their
so
weight
Alicia,
goals.
for sportsmen, 5 days on, 2 days off, when they've got to play on the weekend, probably not so good.
Yeah, it is really tricky. There's some that come to me and are like, I want to try intermittent fasting, and I'm like, oh, well, this is going to be really tricky because your days always change, your performance is actually needing to be key, and fitting in those fasting times, even with 16-8, can be really tricky. So that's definitely one population that it doesn't work for. There's a few others. There's definitely, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. If you don't like it, then that's totally fine. Also, children and adolescents in that growth period, shortening that time of eating actually then leads to that calorie restriction, which is not always a goal. Weight loss isn't always the goal of diets, particularly in intermittent fasting.
I think we're focusing on losing weight here, aren't we? Because there's some great health benefits to an intermittent fast. Can you name a handful of them?
Oh, I mean, we have improvements in our cholesterol level, blood pressure. Our metabolic health parameters improve with all of these different diet approaches. Sure, weight loss is also an outcome.
Kind of a bonus.
But health is the most important thing we need to be focusing on when engaging with our patients.
I intermittently do intermittent fasting. I love that. So every now and then I'll give 5 to a crack and then I go back. And the hardest part is that you're having those days where you go, I'm really hungry.
And we've been led to believe that dieting is the way to go about things, and fad diets and restricting food. But, you know, that couldn't be further from the truth. We should be not cutting out entire food groups and, you know, embracing a holistic approach to life. And an approach that's going to be sustainable.
Sustainable, that's the thing. So in summary, Chloe, for your clients, if someone's looking for a weight loss approach or some sort of strategy, a fad or an intermittent fast?
I think it can help, but it depends on the individual, and it depends on what's going to work best for the individual.
Alicia, for your clients?
Yeah, see it as a tool in the toolbox when you're looking at these types of food habits and changes where intermittent fasting. So if it works for you, then great, but there's many other tools in the toolbox, like Nick said, that show these metabolic advantages through other means other than just going one diet.
And Nick, you're keen to stop the sort of yo-yoing rebounding effect too.
Yeah, well, different diets work for different people, but look, the stats do show that fewer than 5% are succeeding on their weight loss journey lifelong. You know, you need to give your body a break along the way, impose those diet breaks. And sure, intermittent fasting
Great advice,
does work for some people.
And get some advice.
Thanks to our expert panel. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Gerald. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Chloe. Thanks, Jo.
Thank you.
Let's take a little break. We've got more after this on the House of Wellness.
Later, we'll look at ways to save your sanity during the school holidays.
But next, we're cooking an Aussie seafood favourite, prawns, my fave, coming up here on the House of Wellness.
Nothing says Australian summer like fresh seafood. Today, I'm going to show you a recipe for prawn lettuce cups with coconut and avocado dressing that will nourish you through your next summer soiree. Firstly, prepare your dressing, starting with your liquids, coconut milk, soy sauce and fish sauce. Then add avocado, lime juice and garlic. Finally, your Inner Glow powder to add extra nourishment to heal, hydrate and protect your skin. Blend it till smooth and set aside in the fridge. Now for the filling. In a bowl, mix the prawns, watermelon and chilli. You can decide if you want it to pack a punch. Then add cashews and chopped coriander. Scoop the filling into the lettuce cups with a dollop of avocado dressing. And there you have it, prawn lettuce cups. So simple, but always a hit.
Yummo, and that's a great spin on the old traditional prawn on the barbie, right?
Yeah, well, Aussie, you know, Aussie Christmas seafood. Hey,
hello, everybody.
I personally love it when people steal my food, so I don't have any problem with that.
Oh, that is irresistible.
Forget I was
How delicious is that?
This is a really simple recipe. I mean, the dressing itself, it's got beautiful flavours, avocado, it's got that lovely, luscious, velvety texture to it, but it's really, really healthy.
It's a Sanchoy Bao sort of thing.
It's the Sanchoy Bao, Aussie style.
You make it with beagle, it's Sanchoy Bao Wow.
Oh, what, Dad?
God.
So we're making some more delicious things here today.
Yeah. So I thought what I'd show you today is another simple recipe. I'm going to make a salad, but what I'm going to obviously use is avocado. I love avocado, monounsaturated fats. Now, if you are going to cut the avocado like I am, please be careful because you want to make sure you don't pierce the skin, but that goes straight. Yeah. I am a professional, as we know.
Yeah.
I'm also using blueberries. Blueberries are a great source of fibre. So again, it's that balance of the oils, the lipids, to the acid that naturally comes in fruit, and it complements each other really nicely. Quinoa. Look, if you're not a quinoa fan, remember this is a gluten-free grain. It's very alkalising. It's one that's very easy for the body to digest because it's an unhybridised version of a grain.
And it fills your tummy, so you're having a salad, but you are filled.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But if you don't like quinoa, obviously brown rice. Freekeh is another really lovely grain to use. Yeah.
I thought that was
and
made
kale.
up.
Oh, this is a total hipster dish. What else?
Total hipster. I am from Bondi, so I guess it's, you know.
I have to admit to you, Zoe, that I buy kale all the time and I always throw it out.
Look,
it seems like such a good idea in the shops.
I think, look, Kale and I have a somewhat love affair and somewhat hate affair because, again, it is pretty boring. It's how you actually use it. It's quite cheap, kale. So, again, it's something that you can actually quite easily find.
Yeah, because no one wants to buy it.
Pasta salad, blueberries, kale, quinoa and some
avocado.
And the dressing.
Yeah, so look, with this dressing, it is divine. So we've got coconut, we've got avocado, we've got that natural sweetener of honey in there. So it really actually helps to balance this dish out. It does make it feel a little bit more luxurious and a little bit more special for Christmas time.
You put all that in there.
Oh, look, I put all but a little bit. Remember, I've got it in the jar for the purpose that if you don't use it, I hate wasting food. This dressing can be thrown over any salad that you like as well.
Gorgeous
So
offering
really
from
simple.
your book, Falling in Love with Food. You've done another one quickly.
I've done a chicken cumin dish. Again, we're using brown rice. We've got pomegranates. We've got currants in there. Again, it looks beautiful. It presents really nicely. If you're not a chicken fan, this protein or this dressing can be used on any protein. Vegan, tofu, you can put the beans into it as well. So very versatile.
And it looks so easy if you'd like a copy of Falling in Love with Food, a cookbook and a love story. I love it. Just head to houseofwellness.com.au. That is a handy Christmas present right there, Zoe.
There's even some spare pages at the back. I'll fill in with some dad jokes, you guys. Sorted. Thank you, Zoe. Stay with us.
Thanks, guys.
More after the break here on the House of Wellness.
And that's right, we're beaming across Australia on the 7 Network and the Prime Network. A show packed with life, nutrition, health and inspiration.
Coming up, we find out what essential vitamins and minerals your body needs.
What do I need for my brain?
All that and so much more here on the House of Wellness.
Welcome back. These days, many of us lead very, very busy lives. There's work in the family to look after, and sometimes looking after our health can go under the radar. Having a balanced diet is essential for maintaining your body's daily required vitamins and minerals.
So what happens if you're not keeping up the quota? Because it's so many vegetables.
So much green.
That's where taking a vitamin or supplement may help you maintain your health. So this week, Gerald and I stepped out for a super fun A to Z of vitamins. This might look like just a delicious brunch, but really it's all the vitamins that will make my body function properly. You've got vitamin C in the orange juice, avocado gives me vitamin C, EK, B1, B2, I mean it's bananas in pyjamas on a plate, and the eggs gives me vitamins A and D. But if I'm honest, that really just all sounds like alphabet soup to me. I don't really know what the vitamins are doing for my body. So I think it's time to take a closer look. Now, to get the full picture of how vitamins affect different parts of our body, I've reached out to House of Wellness' very own Gerald Quigley.
Isn't that magnificent?
Very beautiful artwork. And he has enlisted body artist Wendy Fantasia and life model Beck to help bring our insides to life. Because vitamins play an important role in our bodily functions, such as metabolism, immunity and digestion. The cells of our body literally thrive on them.
The process in the cell, in every cell, is like a little factory, Joe. They're almost like the fuel for spark plugs. So the spark plugs in the car, nothing happens if they don't work. So whether it is bone structure or thyroid structure, or we go down through the heart and circulatory system into the digestive system, each of those requires essential nutrients to help them work efficiently.
Very complicated.
I know, Jo.
There's a
but
lot
it's
to remember.
It's a complicated system, as you can see.
Unfortunately, I'm a simple person, so...
Why don't you get a piece of paper?
I do need to write it down, but I didn't bring a pen or paper. I wonder... Wendy, could I borrow... Yes.
Oh, Jo, I don't quite know how I've been talked into this.
You look magnificent.
Thank you.
What vitamins do I need for optimum heart function?
Well, you need a variety of them, Jo, but it's a receiving area for blood.
Just stop moving so much.
I like to move. And vitamin K, for clotting factors, is the most important one there.
The liver.
Yes. Your favourite organ and mine.
That's what I think it looks like after I've had a really big night.
There are 13 essential vitamins, including vitamins A, C, D, E, K, and the Bs, such as riboflavin and folate. And when it comes to nourishing our bodies, they all have a job.
I don't fully understand how the brain is shaped.
Yes.
It's something like that.
Oh, good. Thank you very much.
All right, tell me about what do I need for my brain?
We need the fat-soluble vitamins there. So we need A and D, and it's the same for the eyesight as well.
Oh, really? Oh, OK. Hold on a second.
Oh, dear. Why did I say that?
And D.
Yes, well,
I think I'm starting to get the hang of all 13 essential vitamins. The whole lot get used to make enzymes in our gut. The skin loves vitamin Bs when it's repairing and regrowing tissue. Bones need a combo of vitamin A, D and K for strength and flexibility.
And then what about libido?
Yes, how are you going to draw that?
Which brush should I use?
Loss of libido can be associated with B vitamin deficiency, so a little B in the system can help between the sheets.
Not quite as good as what Wendy has done over there on beautiful Beck.
No. Well, it's close, though.
But there's so much in this to know, isn't there?
And we need to understand they are absolutely important because most of us don't get anywhere near the input of the foods containing those essential vitamins.
So we need a little help.
All the time.
And help does sometimes mean supplements. And naturopath Peter Tiuma has spent years giving people, like me, guidance.
Peter, why do we need to take vitamins?
So the best way to get your vitamins is through your food, but we actually see that up to 90% of people don't actually get enough vegetables in the diet. Also, sometimes we have times of need where we're stressed, we're busy, or illness, and that's when we actually need to take the vitamins because we're filling a gap or we just have a higher need at that time.
So what advice have you got for people who have decided they need to start taking vitamins?
What I say to people now is grab out your phone and write down before you start, what's my energy like? Because I'd have clients come in and they'd sit down with me and I'd say, where's your energy? And they'd say 3 or 4. They'd come back and see me a month later and I'd say, where's your energy at? Oh, it's only a 7. Well, you were a 3 or 4. They're like, I didn't even think about that because we now all of a sudden, we're just doing more without realising. So I think that's a great way is have a think about why you want to take them, jot that down, and when you need to renew, have a look, has it worked for me? And that's how you'll know whether it's actually making a difference.
Before I finish, I have one more thing I'd like Gerald to help me visualise. Because as we have seen, certain vitamins affect certain parts of our bodies. So it makes sense that multivitamins cover us completely.
One big happy family blended in together.
Now, how can I visualise that?
Just like this. Oh, Gerald.
And the water wasn't even warm, Jo.
You
could have warned me.
I was just trying to make a point about the importance of a multivitamin.
You made a point, all right.
Explain to us why the multi.
Well, the idea of multi is that it essentially puts things into balance. So all your beautiful drawings blend into one, which really, at the end of the day, if we have gathered up all that water, there's the multivitamin.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we have still got Zoe Bingley-Pullin with us because in front of me, Zoe, I have represented in the food that we should be eating each day our quota of all of our vitamins that we need.
So what you've got here is sort of the ideal diet, but what we have over here is the average diet, and that's what's alarming. This is not even a bad diet, but what is representative in this in itself is that you're looking at about 170 grams of sugar. So, losing the salt here. So that's about that.
Yes.
You're looking at least 50 grams of fat. But the problem is that that's your weekly consumption. It's lovely, isn't it? It's not a smoothie. It's not a smoothie.
It was a trifle.
put that all over your body. Yes. But the problem with that is that the predominant is actually coming from your trans and your saturated fats, because as we know, they're the carcinogenics, they're the real baddies, and then the sodium. But I guess probably what the take-home message is basically this food, although it's not crazy, people think, well, hang on, it's chicken, it's chips. There's very little nutritional value. So it's the vitamins and the minerals, the fibre intake and the enzyme content that actually is not in this food, which is represented in these foods.
But, you know, it's so easy for this to be our diet because we're busy, we're turning to takeaway, we're turning to easy options.
How many people start a day with one of those?
Well, I mean, that is average. I don't think it's outrageous, but I see here a very stark difference in what we should be eating.
Look, obviously, as a nutritionist and a chef, I always say to people, slowly incorporate these types of foods into your diet, because what you can do in one meal is you can get your whole entire cross-sections of vitamins, minerals, if you're smart. So it doesn't mean that you have to radically change everything. It's accessibility. It's not more expensive to eat this way if we look at the bigger picture. Buy online, do your food plans, be organised, but remember, versatility equals more nutrients.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Zoe. It's inspirational. We got to eat better.
Okay, it's that time again for your calls and questions. Our expert pharmacist and medical herbalist, Gerald Quigley, joins us to tackle this one. We hit the streets first up with your health concerns. First up is Chanel in WA. What's your query?
I find that I get headaches during the day and wasn't sure if it was a result of not having enough water, and I was wondering how much water I should be having.
Yeah, good questions. There's lots of triggers to headaches.
There are, and dehydration is probably one of the main ones. And at least Chanel is wondering why the headache's occurring, which makes a real difference. So Chanel, hydrate, 2 litres minimum.
Really?
2 litres. That's not much, Zoe.
It's a lot. No. But that can be in tea.
Everything, fluid. But
even coffee.
Focus on water.
Someone's laughing about that, but I think... Okay, all right. Look, let's go to Robert from Paddington in New South Wales. Hello.
I do a lot of heavy lifting at work and I get a lot of muscle cramps, and I just want to know, how do I treat them?
It's awful.
Yes, I'm going to defer to my colleague over here who's heard me speak on this particular mineral so many times. Now, Ed, what should we have?
Mighty magnesium.
There you go.
I was going to say it, magnesium.
Yes, because it's a tension reliever and the sort of thing that could be taken each night before bed and on big physical activity days. Plenty, yes.
My eye twitched for about 3 days. The only thing that got rid of it, magnesium.
Well, that's the classic magnesium sign, is a twitch.
Huh, how about that? There we go. Great advice, thank you. Stick with us, everyone. Loads more to come right after this here on the House of Wellness.
Next, we learn how to save your sanity when dealing with bored kids.
All important tips for school holidays. We'll see you back here on the House of Wellness.
Welcome back. Well, we all look forward to the holiday season. It's upon us. We get time off work, barbecues galore and long days in the sun. And most importantly too, lots of time with our kids.
But as much as we look forward to spending some quality time with our kids, within about 5 minutes, what do we hear? I'm bored. It can make our holidays begin to feel like work.
Yeah, so here to save our sanity during the school holidays, joining us again is Dr Fiona Martin. Nice to have you with us, Fiona.
Thank you.
Got you here for your expertise as a psychologist, but also a mum of many.
Yes.
And I mean, we probably fall into this trap too. I had 3 weeks off over last summer, worked about 4 days of that, but then had the rest with my kids. And by the time I got back to work, I was exhausted. We need a bit of help too, whilst also keeping our kids from being too bored.
No, that's right. And it's good for them to be bored. Yeah, absolutely.
What emotion.
Yeah. It's important that they have time away from the bombardment of the external world. You know, they're constantly scheduled into doing activities and are at school all day. And it's good for them to have some quiet time, still time, to pursue their own interests. And it's good for them. It's good for them to be able to just follow their curiosity.
I love the idea of that, but I think it sometimes is easier said than done because of the we've got to withstand the whinging.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Look, you have to change their mindset about boredom. So when you hear, I'm bored, you need to shift that and say, actually, it's good for you that you're bored. You're actually able to then go and explore. So you need to change their mindset about them, let them pursue their interests and just go and make a mess. You know, give them some materials to do that. Let them make
a spaceship out of some cardboard boxes or, you know, something else out of toilet paper rolls. Let them cook, let them go and pursue their interests. Yeah.
It's interesting because we've got to kind of facilitate the boredom, don't we? I mean, sometimes when it rains, the outside drain near our place off the back lane has water flowing down it. We grab leaves and we have leaf races down the
Oh, wow.
2 boys. Could not be happier.
Yeah. But boredom is very good for their well-being and development, and those sorts of opportunities like that, natural opportunities where they can sort of create things, helps them their well-being and also with their problem-solving skills. It's really important to allow them to just be bored.
So you can't die of boredom. It's okay.
You can't die of boredom, that's right.
They think they can.
On the
but
record.
It's true. I think too, we need to be strong enough to be unpopular as parents because they're going to come back to us.
Well, that's right. Yeah, exactly. But this is like, it's a double-edged sword because, you know, on the one hand, you know, you want them to be engaged in activities and whatever because it's, you know, it's good for them to be involved in, you know, sporting activities during the holidays and whatever else. And we should use that opportunity to rest as well as parents. It's an opportunity to rest. But on the other hand, too, they need time. Yeah. But
Mummy needs downtime too.
Yeah, that's right. But on the other hand, you know, they need to be able to just be by themselves, you know, away from the tech, away from all the activities, and just follow their natural interests.
What do we do about that constant desire for the screen?
Okay, well, boundaries. This is where we have to put in place some clear rules around the house about them. Out of the bedrooms, definitely out of the bedrooms, and limited time. So supervise when they're using the screens.
Nice little ratio, screen time and some green time.
Oh, nice.
I like that.
Yeah.
Very good.
I'll write that down. Common ideas, man. Great info. Let's hope we survive the holiday season. Appreciate your tips.
Welcome.
Thanks so much, Dr Fiona. We'll be back right after this quick break here on the House of Wellness. Been a great show. We've got to go, but before we do, we found a little behind-the-scenes footage that I must share with you from the story you did earlier, Jo, with Gerald. Take a look.
You did mention libido.
Yes.
Which do you think is the right price?
Oh, what a stupid question. I mean, it's got to be the full-strength paintbrush, for heaven's sake. Right, just speak. Oh, no, I was not expecting that.
You can go the large roller.
It did. It took a while. It took a while for the bruises to settle. I had 2 bruises.
I throw myself into my job, and I didn't really.
You certainly do, don't you?
I didn't mean for that.
The Rembrandt of wellness. We've got to run. If you want to see that again, more of it, watch it over and over. Don't forget, head to our website, houseofwellness.com.au. You'll find us there with loads of great info, and we'll be back next time. Can you believe it? With a very special Christmas show.
We love Christmas.
You're the Grinch. We'll see you for Christmas, a Christmas special coming up next week. Thanks again to all our team and to our friends at Chemist Warehouse too. Have a healthy and well week, everyone.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.